Hello everyone, I wanted to shoot a quick kind of precursor video to webinar 18 to explain a few things. One, I promised that video would be out the same day, and that was 1 week ago today. But I assure you, I've tried every day since and I've had nothing but trouble. First of all, getting the video from Fuse, which I probably will not use them anymore because on our last webinar, on the social media webinar, we had the same issue. But then when we finally got the video, the audio didn't match up with the video, and we had that whole mess. So even in the video in its current state, the audio will not match up with my face, so you might as well disregard my mug there in the corner and just listen to it. And I also cut up this video pretty hard. There was a lot of echo, and I think I said the word about 6,000 times, and I apologize for that. That drives me crazy, and I don't know why I've fallen into that habit, but I have, and I'm sorry. So it should be pretty clean now. I said can you believe it? But listen to the discussion after the video, and during that discussion I also have some B footage of the cart where we go around the cart and you can see it in its current state. Enjoy, let us know if you have any other questions, and we'll see you in 1 week. Well, next Thursday we'll have another webinar, and I believe we have a few topics, but I believe we're going to try and touch our business marketing package a little bit more so people understand what they have in it and the perks that you get by signing up for it, which is $19.99 a month, and we'll go into depth on that. And if not, then we'll have another subject and we'll approach that one here shortly. But enjoy. Talk to you soon. Okay. Hello everyone. Let me know if you're unable to hear me. We'll go ahead and get started. I believe I have a little bit of a better web connection. There's a little more echo here, but my internet is better at my house, so I'm doing it from here instead this morning. Let's go over a couple things. Over on the right-hand side, if you're on a computer, there's kind of a little quotation box that you see at the bottom. You can click on that, and you're then able to chat with me and with the rest of the group. You can also speak for the time being until we start getting an echo, and then I'll probably mute everyone while we do some different things. But welcome to webinar number 18. We're concentrating today on the satellite cart. But before we get started, I wanted to touch on a couple things. Let me actually share my screen here. You should be able to see my screen now. And at Snowie.com, let me just go on one of these sliders. There it is right there. I wanted to promote this story contest. We are actually promoting a contest, and this time the prize is actually we'll do our best. It's not a guarantee that we can do it, but we're working with a PR agency that's very, very good at landing gigs with local media and local news. So if you have a Snowie stand, when you go in there, you'll notice some of the rules. One of them is that you have to currently be branding your business as Snowie, and you have to be using our stand and our equipment. If you share with us your story, then we will get you on the news in your local area and promote your business. It could be a big deal for you. Anyway, so I wanted to put that out there. And then I also wanted to touch on a company that we're using called Alexander's. And they also have another entity called Divvy. And so we have a relationship with them. And these guys work with some of the main franchises that are out there, and they provide apparel and business cards and punch cards and all of that. But it's not just that you can go out and buy these things, it's that you can brand them as yours, or you can change some of the details as yours. Everything, or most of the items here, are customizable. So if I were to go into business cards and you're able to log in, we could create a login for you once we have the trademark agreement. And what a trademark agreement is with Snowie, in case you don't know, is that when you use Snowie's name, we require that you use our flavors. And in order to be able to do these things and to use Snowie's logo and Snowie's look, we need to make sure that you've signed that agreement. And once you have done that, I'm going to mute my speaker so I don't get an echo here. And once you do that, then I will create a login for you on this Divvy Systems, and you're able to come out here put in your information, and all you do is enter that and place your order, and then you'll have business cards show up. Now you also have different things like punch cards. You can put your location where they're good at in this area right here and say that it's good only in this location. I have a lot of people that do events and would like to do a punch card as well, and basically what we came to is you could put your event name on there if it's one that you frequent. Like we do one here in Salt Lake City called Gallivan Plaza, that if you were always going back to the Gallivan, or if you were always at the ballpark, Spring Mobile Ballpark, or it's called Smith's Ballpark now, if you were always going back to that location, even though that's kind of an event for you, you could put it there, good only at the Snowie located at Smith's Ballpark. And if you did have just random events, you could say good only at Snowie's run by Acme Enterprises. And then people could come up and say, are you owned by Acme Enterprises? They could say yes or no, and you could use a punch card that way as well. Anyway, these are a lot of these things like the signs. You're able to put in your address, say, hey, we're over this direction, or see us by Smith's Food and Drug or Kroger's, anything to direct people on where you would like to go. And so these are A-frame signs. A lot of these things can be customized so that you can use them. I wanted to make sure that I put a plug in for this site because this is very valuable and we haven't promoted it too much. And when franchises get started, they use a site like this where they can go out and buy all of their marketing materials, customize it to their location and their own business, and go from there. We also have some new apparel that I'm liking. We have some updated hats, a lot of updated clothing. Nice. We're excited about this new line and a lot more for ladies than we've had in the past. Different looks. Anyway, so feel free to go out and check those things out. And if you have already signed the market agreement with Snowie, then you're able to purchase items through this. Here's a hat, by the way. So you can see one in person. Maybe I'll make that a little bit bigger. But this is obviously a flat bill, and you can get different hats. Let's see here if I can. What I wanted to do, so again, the webinar today was primarily focused on the satellite cart. And there's a lot of questions about the satellite cart, and so I created a video last night, or yesterday rather, about the satellite cart, so I'm going to play that. Let me know if you have questions. We can stop it right in the middle if you like. Hello, I'm Aaron Rupp, and welcome to webinar number 18. We're doing it today on the satellite cart. And I really wanted to point out a lot of the advantages and even some of the disadvantages of using this cart as opposed to our other carts. Now, when some of you might be familiar with doing events and having some of our stands, and some of you might be brand new to this, so I'm going to be very basic on it. So on our buildings and our kiosks, they have a full water system in them. They have hot water, they have a 3-basin sink, which is for wash, rinse, and sanitize, and they have a separate hand washing sink. And the health department loves that. And you could take that stand anywhere and get in pretty much any event. Now there are some events where they will allow you to be able to have just a hand washing sink and something basic like that. But usually there has to be a sink that you can approach, a 3-basin sink like a little restaurant or a concession stand that's built in that has a 3-basin sink that you can use, and restrooms nearby. And as long as you have those things, then usually you can just get a hand washing sink. And so this stand could stand alone, and it could be your first, initial, and only stand. But we named it a satellite cart because its true purpose was to be a second stand, or like a satellite off of your main stand. And you can use your main stands as a base. So you could have a building, you could have a kiosk, anything that has the full water system in it, and then you could have a satellite cart off of that. And the reason we did that, and I'm going to have another video up here shortly that shows our event at Sugar House Park here in Salt Lake City. Now at this stand there were, I don't even know how many people there were, I never got an exact number, but there were thousands and thousands of people. And if you took one stand there, you would have done fantastic, but you would never be able to service that whole crowd. You're like one area of a huge park. And so we took 4 stands. Now that's, anybody who's starting out, that's costly to jump into. So even if you owned a stand, and on average a kiosk is about $22,400, and I'm including shipping and everything in that. That's you having your stand, your shaver, a starter kit that has all of your flavors, a flavor station that comes with it. I mean, none of these things come with it, but I'm including all of these things so you have a good solid number on what to expect. Now obviously shipping can vary widely, but I average the shipping at about $1,000 to be able to receive that. And the shipping actually is the same for one of these because it has to be shipped differently. But so for about $22,400, you could get in a kiosk. Now if you wanted a second kiosk or even 3 more, you'd have to dish out that same amount for each one, and that can be costly to jump into right away. So that's why we created the satellite cart. It allows you now to be able to have your stand that you already have, use that as your base, and then you use the satellite cart. Now some people might think, okay, well why wouldn't I just do another cart that has a hot water system in it? Because we do have smaller carts, like a 5-foot cart that you actually stand behind, much like this, and it has a rounded front, and you open the doors and you have a water system, a full water system in it. Now those usually only have a 2-basin sink. We can put 3 in if you want, and they can have a separate hand washing sink as well. And all of that is upon request. On the 5-foot, it's a little hard to do a hand washing sink with everything else because you're limited on your space. But if you want it, we can do it. And we could even put it down on the lower shelf so that you could keep your top counter. The reason we do separate those sinks while we're on the topic is there has to be a separator between your 3-basin sink and a hand washing sink. So if you do put it on the same level, you're going to have to put it, or we will have to put some kind of barrier in between them, and sometimes that's not the prettiest thing in the world. What we found is the most visually appealing is to put the hand washing sink up top and the 3-basin below, and then you have no ugly divider, and the public actually loves seeing your hand washing sink. Then they know that you have real equipment and it's healthy. The people who are serving them are healthy. So, but if you were to do a cart, and I wrote down this number and I let that flip on its head, but if you were to do a 5-foot cart and you had the flavor station and you got your shaver and the shipping and all that stuff included, you're about $11,300. So you're close to half the price of a kiosk. And so really that's our intent for creating this, is because the kiosk is expensive. Even half of that, if you were buying multiple stands, can be costly. And so we wanted to do something to like help people be able to get into something on a cheaper level, but it still had a big presentation. Now you could put out a card table and a shaver, and lots of people do that, and they have a pop-up tent and they have a banner. But there's nothing drawing the crowd in with that. You can make money at doing it, and hopefully you get a line and get some attention off the bat to where it will draw more people in. But really, presentation is huge. And you can even get blowers for the top of this, just like you can. I mean, it's a smaller blower, it's not a big one. And it can run off a battery, just like you can run your shaver off of a battery on this one. So you could obviously run a power cable and go to an AC shaver, or if you wanted, you could do a DC shaver, which is 12 volt. So you could have a battery at the base of this stand and feed that directly to your shaver and run it that way. One of the examples that I use in the verbiage that I wrote up on the website is you could go out on the boardwalk and just sell. As long as you have your ice with you, you don't have any power or anything like that. The only thing extra that really isn't built into the stand is ice. So you could push this, you could carry a cooler on wheels and be in business. But when you're on a boardwalk, they're obviously not just going to let you do that. Now you could see ice cream guys that are pedaling down the road on their bike. They have a cooler and they're able to sell ice cream, but that is a prepackaged product. It's different than when you're handling something that you're making and is exposed to your hands and all of that stuff. So you have to have sinks, hand washing sinks and different things to be able to make that happen. But if you were someone who owned a storefront, or you had a stand like one of our buildings on a beach, and you wanted to take a satellite cart out on the boardwalk, you could do that because you could use your building as a base. Now you could do this at all events too. So if you'd had a fireworks show like we did at Sugar House, you can use any one of those as a stand and put these out and about to be able to service other crowds. But we've always felt presentation is huge, and to be able to attract as much attention as you can. And that's why we put up high signage. It's why we have signs that hang off the front of our kiosks in our buildings, and you can do the same thing with this one. Those are optional items, and you can add them if you want. You can also kind of disassemble this guy too. You could do it without the money tray. You could take your top off and use an umbrella instead. There's ways to save money and get even cheaper. But so if I was to go through the cost, so I kind of did that. A kiosk fully loaded, and I just want to emphasize that that's where I'm getting these numbers, because you'll compare them to the website and be like, man, his numbers are high. But really, I am giving you a number that is the kiosk, the shaver, shipping, a starter kit, and a flavor station. So everything you would need that would basically be the equivalent of this. And that's the beauty of this, is a lot of that stuff is combined in one. So you're about 22.5 with a kiosk. You're about 11.3 for a cart, a 5-foot cart, with all those things. And then with the equivalent of this, you're about 8,800. And even if you made a simple decision of like removing your top and putting an umbrella, you could save $1,000 that way. You could put an umbrella for $40 rather than a $1,000 top. So there's ways to even bring down costs out of this. So let's go over this a bit. So some of the advantages of this is, it's not necessarily an advantage, but I think it's a good looking feature. Well, you put your shaver in here, and I left the shaver out on purpose. This can take any one of our shavers from the 1000 all the way to the block. And if you wanted to collapse the top, this top will actually collapse on a 3000 shaver, and you could keep the shaver in there. If you have the block, it obviously has that high top, and you would have to remove your shaver to be able to collapse it. But you don't need a workstation drip pan, it's all built in. So this has a radius to it. It's kind of hard to see on video sometimes. But as the water drains out of your shaver, it will just hit here and it will drain into its own storage. It has a built-in money tray. And while I'm talking about the money tray, I'll point out these spigots. So you can see that we have a void here of spigots. We did that on purpose. We used to have it spread through the whole thing. But when a customer's right here filling, then they're right next to your cash drawer. And sometimes they'll get a little more than flavor. So we backed them off. So we actually tightened them up and pushed them towards the front. So all of your flavors are serving from this point forward. That keeps the crowd away from your money tray. And while we're talking about the flavor station, this has a little ledge here. If Rach, you want to go down and grab that. And we did that on purpose because with our regular cups, it was all great, but then we added the feature of having flower cups and being able to shave those in our shavers. So we built this lip so that when you have a ball of snow on here, you can tuck that under and you're pretty centered on your shaved ice. Whereas before you were only on an edge and you kind of had to like tip your cup and to be able to fill that whole thing. So this allows you to be able to get right to the center of that cup, which is sweet. This one also comes with, set this in here, with 8 flavors as opposed to 6. So when you buy a starter kit, our event starter kit, when you buy a flavor station with your shaver, we have a starter kit that was built to a 6 flavor. So you would want to add 2 flavors to that to be able to accommodate your 8. If you've never seen a flavor station before, a lot of people have some assumptions about it. Like you would have to take this apart, take the jugs out, and all our flavors, once they're preserved, you preserve your sugar water, and once that's preserved and you mix your flavors, they're good for 1 year. So you don't need to take this apart, you don't need to wash it after each event, at least internally. You have to make sure all of the spigots and everything are clean, but everything inside that system is preserved, so it's good for 1 year. And then instead of taking any of this apart, you'll actually mix it in other jugs and just top it off here and fill it with flavor, and you're full again, and your crowd is happy. This top also collapses, as I mentioned before, so it will actually drop down. Oh, we have it pinned right now, but it'll drop down to where your top is about this height. So I'm 6'3" So it's at about my nose, where the top of that would live. And let's go inside real quick. So, as I mentioned, this does not have a full water system, and there's no power going to this stand. A lot of this stand was intended to run off of a DC shaver, so you could keep your battery in here and feed power to your shaver. You can also run your blower off of a DC battery, or a DC motor off of your battery as well. And the water system actually doesn't require any power at all. It actually comes out here. You feed your water with a pump. I didn't put any water in it, but you're able to wash your hands coming out of this faucet. And you could put any jug in here you want. So some of your health departments are going to vary in what they require. So this is a 2.5 gallon jug. You can, actually this might be a 1 1.25, 5 quarts. Anyway, so we have 2.5 gallon jugs. We have 1.25 gallon jugs, and you could also do a 5 gallon jug. So whatever your health department requires, we would be able to put in here for you, and it's easy to do that. And then you're able to keep supplies in here. It's a good amount of storage, and you're able to get anywhere you want. Now, in some of the early photos that we've done with, well, it had a handle that you would pull. We've actually removed the handle, and we may be bringing that back upon some request, but there's no need. Before, we had some feet that would rest on the ground and hold that stand there. So you needed a handle to prop it up and move it wherever you wanted, and then bring it back down. Right now the handle does not come with it. We've actually added 2 casters, locking casters, so you could just move this cart anywhere that you want and not have to worry about attaching a handle. If you do want the handle because you felt like it was easier to direct and to travel, we can do that for you. I don't have a cost on that right now because we haven't been making it, but and then you can break these as well. So now that stand is locked and doesn't want to move. And it locks on the back on this other caster as well. So it's very, very easy. It can go over rough terrain very well with the large wheels in the back. Again, sometimes that handle is better to be able to pull over objects rather than push it. So it could be a good feature to be able to have that handle come back. I don't know if anybody has any questions concerning the satellite cart. That's the video that I created about it. If it sparked anything, or if there's anything you felt like I left out, I'm happy to answer any questions concerning it. And we can also, if you don't have any questions concerning that stand itself, but about the business in general, I'm happy to answer any questions you have at this time. I'll go ahead and address Steve's. And Jay, if you want to ask yours down in the chat window, we can answer it there. So Steve asked, how do you clean flavor spills? What we do, so if you notice there was a drain catch, I didn't really point that out, did I? But below that drain catch, or below the spigots, there's a drain catch, and all of those will go into a drainage. And you can actually wipe up all that area with just a rag. And what we always do is we keep a bleach solution. So we barely put, if I have a gallon bucket, I fill out about 3/4 full, and I just put in a dab. The health department will actually come by with a bleach strip and make sure that, let me move this around here a little bit, and make sure that your bleach solution is correct. You don't have to mess with that too much. Where they're really concerned is if you put in too much bleach. So just put in a tiny bleach and those things wipe right up. Some of the best ways to combat flavor is water. There's lots of people that will bring Windex, all kinds of things, and man, it just doesn't break it down. But you get a rag full of water, and it will wipe syrup right up. And as another positive note, we have parents talk quite a bit about clothing. They worry about their kids. They have a bright red color, bright blue, and all those things. All those flavors can spill on those clothes, and that flavor will come right out. So it doesn't stain. To address Bill's question, are you able to replay the video? I will actually be posting this today. Everything is already preset, so as soon as I stop this meeting, it will actually have to go through a render process, and as soon as that is done, I can upload it. Last time we had some difficulty where we were only getting portions of the video. I believe that's been resolved, so that shouldn't happen again. So this video will be live again today. You'll be able to watch this whole thing. Okay, so yeah, like a kiosk. Sorry, I'm hopping in the question. I'll read it. So I missed the viewing of the cart. Does it break down like the kiosks? It does, and by breaking down, I believe you mean the collapsing of the top. It's built just like a kiosk in that sense. So you can raise that top or you can lower it. Again, I mentioned in that video, you could slide it right out of the top if you wanted to. It takes a couple people to do that. It's top heavy when you do it. But you could pull it out and you could put an umbrella in its place. Or even when you order it, you can order an umbrella instead of that top. And that cuts off $1,000. There's quite a few people that have already bought a satellite cart and have gone with the umbrella option. And there's quite a few people that have done the top as well. And because they want it to have that look. But yeah, you can do that. Can 2 satellite carts fit on 1 pallet so shipping is less? Yeah, and the reason that I said in the video, I don't know if you caught that, but there's a couple companies that we work with. When we ship really big items like a building or a kiosk, we do it through a company called Expeditors. And what they do is they go out and find LTL, which is less than load. And what that means is if there's already a semi pulling some equipment to your direction and we can find some empty space on that trailer, we will do that. And usually we can get a bargain, and by a bargain I mean, like we're sending a whole big 8 by 5 foot building for $1,000. But you contrast that to this satellite cart that's quite a bit less, but it can't necessarily ride like that. And so we use a company called Old Dominion, and it's more expensive by the nature of the shipping alone. But we'll pack it full of supplies. You could see that in the top there was a void that you could put supplies in. At the base of it, where you put your water or whether you put your battery if you're using a DC shaver, all of those things, you can put all of that equipment in the base. We could put a couple carts on a pallet and make that stuff fit. We could absolutely do lots of things to be able to help you save money on that. Yeah, Don, sorry. Yeah, it's over. Don's asking if the video is over. It is over, and I'll just reiterate. This video will actually be on today. I will need a couple of hours because it will need to go through a render process, and then I'll have it back on. You'll be able to view it on YouTube and also on our video page. So if you go to snowie.com, oh, you know what? I'm not sharing my screen. Let me share my screen real quick. If anybody is ever wondering where those are, and how do I hide this? You can go to Media, go to Video Gallery, and you're able to see videos here. And anyway, just to let you know how you get there. Again, encourage people. I do this after every one of them. Use the forum page and stuff like that as well. If you have questions that you just want to jot down, have some people respond, and have you guys all respond to one another, that's a great place for that. So Bill is asking whether the top lights up like a kiosk. Right now the defaults do not, but we absolutely have all of the materials and the ability to make it light up. Our original intent for this stand was to make it so that it didn't require any power, that the only thing on your stand that required power was your shaver. And even that you could do with the DC version. And we do have a blower that's a 12-volt blower that you can use for your windsock as well. So right now they don't light up, but that's a very easy customization for us. If you want that to backlight and you even want puck lights that shine down on your stand, we can do that as well. So easy to do. Steve has a follow-up question also on the light up flavor station. A new thing that we're doing on our flavor stations is actually lights on the top edge. So where those spigots were, above the spigots, there's a ridge there where you're putting your jugs, and we put some LED lighting there, and we can do that as well. All of those things, anything we can do to a flavor station, and really anything lighting wise that we do to a kiosk, we can do that as well. The battery life, these are great questions. So what we tell people to do is get a marine deep cycle battery, and we tell them to do a minimum of 110 amp hours. Now you can go above that and it will just increase the life of your battery. But if you're using a 3000 shaver and you have a battery like I described, you should be able to have that battery work for 6 to 8 hours. Now, normally what people do when they're running a DC is they will have one battery charging, or even both the night before, right? But always a second one that's fully charged, or is at least on a charger, so that if you do have one that dies in the middle of your event, you're able to swap that out. But batteries, the DC shaver, I think we've sold more DC shavers this year than ever. They've been very, very popular, and they shave very, very well. As long as you have a good charged battery, and it will work just like the AC version of the 3000. Can you plug in the wall? Those are great questions. Any other questions? I know a lot of you are hopping in. I could tell that people were dropping out and coming in, like a connection was bad on your end. Again, I'll have this webinar up today that everyone will be able to go through and see it. The one thing I noticed is I didn't show the front of it, and the front of our stand has changed quite a bit. I wish I would have done that. But I have I'm trying to go through some things. But what I'll do is I'll add some video to that as well. I took some video all around the stand, so I'll get some B footage that shows panning around the stand so you can see the front end of that as well. Okay, so if no top, how does the umbrella work? If you noticed where the poles were on the stand, and what I could do, this might even be, I'll bring up this video. So see where the poles are on the back of that? Let's see if I can get, it'll let me draw here. So you see that pole, there's also a vertical pole just behind me. And what we would do is, if you order it without it, I'm trying to remember, I think they have the cavity on both of them. So you would just have an area that you would put the umbrella in right there. It's actually good looking, and you can have that stand tall, and you don't have to duck under it. That umbrella can stand pretty proud on that. Well, I was talking about the ridge above. So if you notice this ridge right here, is it letting me draw? It's not letting me draw anymore. But I think by me scrolling around that video, it was trying to catch everybody's video up probably. So that's not the best option to do. I'll remember that in the future. But going back, so what I was trying to answer with that is, how does the umbrella work? So there's two posts that the top collapses with and expands on. And if you have no top, or if you take your top off, you would be able to drop it down that shaft. And that's where your umbrella would live. And then I went back over the lighting that you could do on the top edge of a flavor station. But when you look at a picture, you'd be able to see it. All right, and so instead of doing the video, I'll just kind of bounce through this. And this is an older style decal. So basically all I was doing is I was talking about this ridge that's above the spigots. We put lighting there now. Again, this is an old image. If you noticed from the video, we moved our spigots forward so that those that are back by where the person is serving, the crowd doesn't go there. So we have 8 spigots that go from halfway forward. Let's kind of scroll through some other ones. So this is the front. We actually have a decal that fills all of this solid now. That looks a lot like this, and which is nice. And again, when I post the video of this, I'll do some footage that I shot all the way around the cart, so you're able to see a lot of that. Trying to remember what else. And also we talked about in the video that we used to do these feet right here, and we used to do this handle. We've now gotten rid of them. Really the purpose of this handle was so that you could prop this up, it would pivot the feet off the ground, and then you were able to ride on these wheels. We no longer do that. We've just gone up forward and put casters here. It seemed to be a more popular option. And there, that shows the top collapsed. This post up here is so that you could put this sign on the front. You can also put a blower on the back that runs off of 12 volt. That shows the water system. The one I showed in the video was a 1 1/4 gallon jug. This is a 2.5 gallon jug. You could take that all the way up to 5. That shows the size of it a bit. There's a picture with the blower on it. It's not it's a small image for some reason, but it shows you how that blower will work. The price on this unit is $4,800. We have that broken down quite a bit, but you can You can eliminate signage, you can eliminate the top. If you really wanted to scale this thing down, you could do that so that it was basically just this coarse stand. You can take out the money tray if that was of no use to you. You can do quite a few of those things. But the top price for the stand alone is $4,800. I have Joe's asking whether you use the 1,000 or the 3,000. In this picture that I have here, that's a 3,000. You're seeing the lid of a 3,000. So you can put any shaver you want in there, 1,000, 3,000, or the block. Really, it's geared to your budget, what you would like to do, what you would like to use. I would obviously, we're geared a lot towards speed as well as quality. If people are doing shaved ice full time, I always encourage them to go with the 3,000 or the block. The 1,000 is a great shaver. It's still fast, but you have to fill it with ice a lot. When you compare the hopper size, a 3,000 has an 8-pound hopper, where the 1,000 has like a 4-pound hopper. And you think there's probably not a lot of difference there. There's a lot of difference. You're doing like a scoop of ice, making a couple, and you're pouring, and you're doing more ice in the top of that 1,000, and you're filling it a lot. The other thing too is, I don't know if you can see me anymore, to kind of give you a size reference. Let's see what I can do here. But our blade, the blade on the 3,000 is about that big, and you can do our verbiage on all of our documentation is about 10,000 shaved ice. In my opinion, you can do far above 10,000 shaved ice. If you make sure that the only thing that's going in that hopper is ice, which seems obvious, but you'd be shocked how many times something foreign can go in there. But when it does, it will dull that blade almost immediately. It could be a metal ice tie off your bag. It could be a pebble off the ground because you broke your ice on the ground and then lifted it up and a pebble went in, and that can make your blade go bad. But let's just say you were using ice and you have a blade that's this big that has like 200 inches of cutting surface on it, and then you compare that to the 1,000 that's about that. It's less than half. Then you're going to burn through that blade quicker. You also have the bigger cubes of ice. We always tell people if you want your cube ice shaver to shave more like a block, then you want as big and round of cubes as you can get. Now the 3,000 can accommodate a very big cube, and so can the 1,000, but sometimes it can be a little too big for the mouth of that 1,000. So, and if you have ice that's frozen together in a big clump, the 3,000 can usually work that out, where the 1,000 is blocking its entry getting into it because it's that much smaller. So if you're doing shaved ice full time, I always encourage people to go with the 3,000 or the block. If you're at a ballpark, do you need a 3-basin sink? This is a good question because, and this is an advantage of the satellite cart that I haven't talked about at all yet, but it's been on my mind. And that is, every one of our stands have always had hot water. They've had a 3-basin sink and a hand washing sink. And when the health department comes, they inspect every one of those items. And if I didn't have my hot water switch turned on, or if I didn't have it plugged in, like if say I was setting up in a hurry, I didn't, and for some reason that got unplugged while we were washing or something, and I didn't plug those things back in, if they watched me assemble that while the health department's there, they're going to be like, you haven't been using it, and they would shut you down. And it's kind of silly to me because we have this elaborate water system, but in a way, if you don't need it, sometimes it's better to not have it. But usually you need it. I'll just say that. But what would happen is I would have a guy next to me that was doing something else, like lemonade and like cotton candy, and they have their hands, everything all over it, and those guys literally had like a 5-gallon jug and a bucket that it was draining in. And the health department just went right over that. There's nothing to not work there. But if they were to take that stand to any other event, the only reason they got away with that is because right behind us was a little built-in concession stand, and behind that concession stand is a big old 3-basin sink. There's restrooms nearby. All of those things play a factor. If I could take my stand out of that scenario and plug it into any event, and I know I would pass, and it would be perfect. Where if they took out their same stand and put it in any other event, they would be in jeopardy of not being able to be there. That usually when you only need a hand washing sink as basic as the satellite cart has, there has to be another sink option around that's close and that has hot water, and usually 3 basin. Could you use this unit in a mall? Absolutely. And that's using the same scenario, Joe, that I just said. Because there's restaurants, because there's concession stands, because there's other equipment there that provides a 3 basin sink and another hot water, hand washing areas and restrooms, you would be able to pull that off. So I'm getting a lot of questions here. Can you revisit also reshipping international? We will need a full to accommodate the height, or can it be crated, put in a crate? Thanks much. We can do all of that. We ship a lot of things internationally. We have to crate a lot of things. A lot of times, even internationally, we're able to put it on a pallet and shrink wrap it. But if you want multiple stands on one pallet, we can do that. I mean, we've done extended pallets for people before where we put all of their equipment, all of their supplies, everything on one pallet. And it's helped them with the cost on that. So the answer is yes. We will do anything and everything to make your shipping cheaper. We do that all the time. We've always hated that shipping is a barrier. And it is. It's like people get money to get a stand and they're all excited, and then all of a sudden there's another $1,000 figure there to get the stand to them. And we try to eliminate that as much as we can. We try to work with companies that are very good with pricing and open that availability. Are these available for pickup from Salt Lake City or Cincinnati? Yes. And I say that thinking, I don't know if Cincinnati has any in stock as of this moment, but we can get it to Cincinnati and have it available for pickup there as well. So yes, any normal situation, they're available here or there. While working, how or why do you need the 3 sink? You don't have to wash the flavor station jugs. The 3 basin sink is literally to make the health department happy. You really have no need. Really, the only piece of equipment that needs to go into your 3 basin sink to wash is your ice scoop. So usually your 3 basin sink has to be able to fit an ice scoop inside of it, because it's something that you handle and it's something that can drop on the ground. That has to be able to fit within your sink. And it's not even that so much as they're going to have sizes that you're going to be required to fit. And we have taken, we build it to the hardest specs in the country to be able to pass. And every year those get more stringent and they change and they're different. We try to stay on top of that, but obviously we don't get notified of everything until all of a sudden somebody wants to get a location somewhere in California. I can throw that out there because it's always California that has some bizarre rule. And but once we change that and we tweak that, and we can build it to California standards, and it will work for the rest of the country. If you are anywhere but there, you usually can pass with flying colors. I think I've touched them all. Did I get everybody's questions? I don't know if anybody has. Let's see here. It looks like some. Oh no, sorry, I thought that bounced. Thank you for attending. If you have, I will have this video, I promise. Yes, and the last webinar is I'm actually doing some editing so that I'm putting it all together. So I went back. What I did is I recorded the setup of the Arts Festival, and if they didn't see, or anybody doesn't know what the last webinar was, I actually went on site to one of our events and viewed our kiosk, and mostly it was right after a setup, kind of talking about everything there, why we had it there. But I also have the actual physical setup recorded, and I also went back another day. It actually rained both of the first 2 days of that event, so I went back 2 days later and got it while it was really busy, so that you're able to see it serving a big crowd. Anyway, I'll have that up shortly too, but I'll have this video up before that one. Anything else? I think that's it. If anybody has questions, feel free to email me, and we'll have a webinar again in 2 weeks, and we'll see you then. Thank you.